So the next story we're going to talk about is firepower in film. So this is a story about how my dad shot me and strapped an explosive to me. Context. That's not completely true, but it also is, but it will make sense. So there was this museum back in London in an area called Woolwich. There's a Royal Arsenal there, or it used to be there, and it's now mostly flats, but it was a military area, and there was a museum there called Firepower. And it had a whole bunch of artillery pieces that, weirdly, my ancestors, I think, had worked on. By ancestors, I mean like great-granddad and stuff like that. Great. And it was a really fun museum. I loved it. I wanted to go there like every weekend. It was so interactive. There were like game areas and stuff where it would teach you about like the curves of artillery, and had like a chronology through time so you could see things get basic to more advanced. It had a hall of medals and stuff, and just the aesthetics and the mood of it, I loved it there. So we'd go there a lot, and eventually my dad kind of started putting together the idea of giving something back to the museum in the form of some kind of exhibition that would teach people how the firepower of military equipment like that is represented in TV and film. So the idea developed into like we would take a corner of the museum and turn it into like a bombed out looking cinema. So it would have like these kind of fake facades to it, and it would be like you would walk into a bombed out cinema and you would watch something on the screen that would explain to people how special effects is used to represent firepower. A lot of people ended up seeing this, and it was quite fun because I got to act in it, me and my brother. The way we did it was as like young kids, we were the presenters, and we would explain the technology and the process, show scenes from films that we had to get permission to show. And at certain points in the exhibition and the experience, there was like a broken plank of wood in front of the chairs, and there were buttons on them. And at certain points in the film, the buttons would light up, and you would press them to trigger something that happens on the video. Now, the things that happened on the video were I would get shot, and you'd be able to fire a rocket at me. So when you press the button to shoot me, there'd be a blood bag that exploded, and blood would run down my lab coat, which is what I was wearing. And then later on, you would fire a rocket at me, and I'd walk out covered in like, powder and stuff. And this was a bit of a hit. It was really good. We even had like family friends that went to the museum on school trips that didn't know we were involved, and then came back saying, wait, what? We went to this thing and we did this. We saw you there. It was a lot of really good fun putting that together. Like, I think must have been 2005, 6, something like that. 6, 7. I think I remember around that time, Oblivion might have come out, the Elder Scrolls 4, and I was playing with like the modding toolkit of it on my old laptop. I remember my mum would make us lunches that we could take to the filming days, and we would film around the Royal Artillery area where they've been building flats now. We got to speak to people that, worked at the museum, and now we see like one of them on like a TV show about antiques and stuff. We got special access to different areas of the Royal Artillery Museum complex, places that people don't usually get to go. And yeah, I suppose it was a really interesting bonding experience in that way. We've still got a poster somewhere in this house now that used to be outside of the bombed out cinema we made that had Firepower in Film with me and my brother on it. Every now and again, we'd go back and check up on it and maintain it. And yeah, it's just one of these like really interesting, unique experiences that most people will never get to do, and it's just a moment of like creative ingenuity that gets followed through on. My dad had to learn all about like logic programming to get the systems working properly so that the video would stop at the right time and that pressing a button would trigger it to carry on and stuff like that. I think there was also a display case that we had outside that had pieces from the recording in it, or just like demonstrations of like containers where like explosive things would be placed to do the effects. One thing that is quite sad is that was running for years, and we got a good run out of that, and people really enjoyed it, and it really became a highlight of the museum. But eventually the museum shut down because it was moving. I think it's moved to somewhere in Salisbury, or rather the collection has moved to Salisbury. The sad thing is that area of the Royal Artillery was just being taken over commercially, residentially, as is what happens. In the UK, we're usually pretty good at maintaining historically significant sites, but it only really matters if places get government funding. So museums are notoriously difficult to keep open. So obviously we're not part of whatever the new museum is anymore because we dismantled our exhibition. But I'm going to just do a little bit of research just to see where it has moved. Okay, it closed in 2016 and moved to a new location in Salisbury Plain. The collections were moved to a storage facility in Wiltshire. Honestly, I'm just finding mixed reports now. I can't even see exactly where it's gone. But this is just kind of comes on to like another little interesting thing about English museums growing up. We've been to a lot of museums, and some of the like most fun ones to go to were like aircraft museums. We got so many airfields and airports around here, and a lot of them had really amazing museums on them. The best things, you could go inside the cockpits of so many different types of aircraft and walk around in them. So many of them have closed. Like as we were growing up, you want to go back to them and, oh, sorry, it shut down. Next one, oh, sorry, it shut down. Because nothing could get the funding. There are a few that remain. I think there's a Spitfire and Hurricane one on the coast somewhere still. We went to the Battle of Britain Museum recently, which is also on the coast. Really good, surprisingly good. Yeah, there's one called the Spitfire and Hurricane Memorial Museum, which I went to a lot growing up, and that was always a lot of fun. But we do have a culture of museums in this country. It shouldn't be a surprise. Obviously, everyone likes to dunk on the British Museum and all the other London museums, Natural History Museum, art ones like the Tate Modern, but we've got a lot of aircraft ones. Duxford would be one of them. Yeah, IAWN Duxford, so it's Imperial War Museum. That's got a lot of stuff. Obviously, the UK has got like a strong war culture to it. No, maybe not a culture. History spanning all through the ages, and especially the 20th century, World War II and all that, of which my family did participate, but I don't really know too much about that history. I would like to learn more about it. I know that some of us worked on artillery, some of us were in the war and survived. There's a family member that worked for the Ministry of Defense. I don't know if I'm allowed to say much about that. They had to do some very late night stuff for the Falklands War. So we've got like a family interest in that kind of thing, which I suppose is probably why, our dad took us to Firepower in the first place, just to kind of learn a bit more about all of it. But it was a fun and interesting thing to take part in as kids. And especially funny knowing that there are so many like school kids, hundreds, thousands potentially, that took turns shooting me in an exhibition. Great fun. Anyway, it's just a short one. I'll leave you there. Let me know if you made it to the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.